Hello and welcome. Today we're going to look at Cowboys From Hell on the Quad Cortex. We'll start by listening to some of the snippets from my full cover, and yeah, let's go.
And right before we get into this, guys, if anybody wants to save themselves 15 minutes rebuilding this in the tutorial, you can download it now in the description.
So let's start with the rhythm tone. We'll come back to the quiet intro. We'll come back to the solo later. It sounds like this soloed. And that's it with all the blocks on. So what we're going to do first is turn all the blocks off. So just rebuild it together. This is like we're doing a left-right thing here to emulate artists tracking the guitar multiple times like they do in the studio. They'll often do that to thicken it up. They won't just record it once, they'll record it a few times. And yeah, we'll turn off the pedal, we'll turn off the gate. So yeah, the first thing we're going to look at is the amp. Now you'll be surprised to hear that it sounds like this. It's not very metal. What this is a solid state clean amp. There are solid state heavy amps on the Quad Cortex, but basically I found that this amp takes the metal zone really well. And that just kind of reminds me of Dimebag, that metal zone sound. I don't think he didn't use one as far as I know, but that sound reminds me of him. So yeah, so far with the metal zone and the amp, we have this. And to me, that's a bulk of the way there. I always start with the amp, and if you can get the amp 90% of the way there, it's, before you touch your modulations, your reverbs, your EQ, I would always start with just one amp and make sure you can get that most of the way to where you could play it at a gig and you'd be happy that this would pass. And I'd be happy with that alone, but we can bring in the refinements on top of that. So yeah, have a look at the settings there. This is the Chief MT, which is their Neural's version of the metal zone. We've got the Rolls Jazz clean amp. It's a solid state amp like Dimebag used. Check out the settings there. And then this is the speaker. I don't think I probably messed with this. Yeah, you can get a lot of EQ and how to moving the mics around. So yeah, just have a look at those, copy those. I normally cut the low frequencies on the speaker because that's what you would often have happen in a studio anyway. Because what they do is they remove the low frequencies to leave space for the bass guitar. Dimebag's tone is quite thin anyway. Okay, next let's look at the second channel. Again, this is like imagine this is the second take. Like Dimebag would have played the whole song once and then again, just to layer it up. And this is what the purpose of this second amp is here. First, I'll just turn on the amp itself and its cab. It just kind of thickens it up a bit. And then this is the kind of, I think, the key to getting, replicating a lot of these sounds you hear on albums is this doubler block here. What this does is it will listen to your dry signal, which we see here, and it will output in real time like a slightly modified version of the dry level. So it will move around your timing, and maybe, I don't know if it does the pitching a little bit or what, but basically it's like an imperfect version of what you play. A little bit different timing, a little bit different pitching. It just makes it sound like it's a different take, essentially. And it's important we turn off the dry level here because we're imagining that none of the original take is going to the top line here, and the second take, the effects or the wet level, is going in here and hitting that second amp. So now you'll already hear that this is going to give it more of a studio-ish kind of sound. It nearly sounds like it's being played twice. It's kind of got that stereo sound going on. And then, we can also do some panning in the mixer here, which I do. I do some gentle panning. I don't like hard panning. What I find is if you use hard panning with this technique, if your amps sound a little different, I don't like the sense that one is really obvious in the ear. I prefer it to sound a little bit stereo, and yeah, I like this half panning kind of thing. So yeah, that's the doubler. Let's give you a moment to have a look at the amp settings more closely. You can copy those. Bogner Uberlead. That's used on a lot of like new metal. I think Korn used this amp a bit. And there's your cab. Again, have a look at the settings, mic positioning, all that stuff. And then again with the low frequencies cut, because I find this amp is quite bassy. It's good to cut out some of the lower frequencies to, let the amp come through the mix a bit. The next thing we should look at is the gate. Dimebag has a very, like what you would think of as a fast or a tight sound. It's not quite maybe the gent sound where it's very start-stoppy, but he needs a fast gate to get all of that, playing can keep that really tight as well. Like you should do quite a heavy palm mute, and then you can be stopping a lot of the sound with your left hand too. And just between all of those, it gives it that really pokey kind of. I don't know if I changed anything in there. If you want to have a look in the splitter, I never change anything in the input, just in case you're wondering. I like to imagine that as like unaffected guitar sound. If you turn this up, I just imagine that as like your guitar is a louder guitar or a quieter guitar if you turn it down. I just don't like messing with this thing. And yeah, again, have a look at the mixer before we move on, because now we've wrapped up the amps and we're going after the amp now to the chorus. So they actually have the chorus or a phaser, I guess, that Dimebag used, which is this in the Quad Cortex, the MX Phase 95 or 90. The real one's the 90. They call this the 95 just to not have it be the same, I guess. But I prefer the Dream Chorus stereo. I just, it's like with the metal zone into the clean amp. I was just able to get the sound to what I think is more accurate, like with this. I don't know why that is, but yeah, let's check it out with the chorus on. And again, going for that really doubled wide kind of sound. Dimebag would use the Phase 90 to have that effect live, basically. He would just leave it on all the time, even when he was doing rhythm stuff. And he would turn the mix down. I think he would keep it down at like 20 or 30%, but again, just whatever way I was hearing this, I needed it there. Let's look at the equalizer now. So we do some quite extreme equalizing here. We're going to basically shelve a lot of the bass down a bit to give Dimebag's thin sound. He's a really thin sounding guitar. And then the mids are also scooped. We're doing the smiley face scoop mids thing here at like, I guess you can look at the knobs here, frequencies around 1,000. And taking the Q and the gain, those are important. And then there's your shelf settings. Yeah, and then the next important part is the push or the bump at around 3,000 hertz. Again, you can see settings there. Just lifts the highs. It gives him he's a very hot, I don't know, fizzy sound, I guess. And then the last thing on the EQ block was the little, I guess, I can't remember the term for this, but I was like targeted to reduce these frequencies, because without this thing, it was kind of sounding annoying to me. But yeah, let's listen with the EQ on. Now, to me, that's getting it over the finish line. That's really the secret weapon in my mind to his tone. The amps, like we talked about at the start, the amps should get you like most of the way there, or like to where you'd be happy to pass it playing live as a cover, like at a bar gig or something. But like really, really focusing on it at home and really wanting to get it right. For me, that EQ block is like that's it. That's when we arrive for me. So yeah, that's the rhythm tone. So yeah, now we can look at the other scenes. Scene A is just the intro quiet part. So when it all drops out, it happens a few times in the song. But yeah, we lose a lot of volume. We come down to this kind of sound here. And we're kind of on a lower gain thing. So we're going to go through all the blocks again because some of the blocks will have changed. These won't have. We can check which amp is playing. This first set of amps, I guess line A or channel A, is off, as we see in the mixer here. If you want to copy these are important. We change these throughout the scenes. And then we have left on the Bogner. We've pulled down the gain a bit. We've assigned some stuff to the scene. So basically this allows you to, if you right click here, you can assign anything to a scene. Ones that are in white have been assigned to the scene. And yeah, in scene A on the quiet part, we lose a bit of gain, like compared to the main rhythm tone. We lose a lot of volume too. But yeah, you can just copy those, and yeah, it just gives us a less intense sound. And what that does is it gives us room for when the song drops to actually like come up in energy and volume. And it's quite distinct when the louder guitar comes in. If you listen to the intro, I'll play a little clip of it here. So yeah, let's move on to the chorus, because that also changes a bit on scene A. We lose a bit of it in the mix to make it less obvious, because that sound just sounds a bit more dry to me. It doesn't sound like there's tons of effects on it if you listen to the original song. So yeah, then onto the EQ. Nothing changes on the EQ. So that is the quiet sound. Finally, let's have a look at the solo sound. The first thing we do is turn off the gate. I was finding when I was playing, it was just annoying to have the gate on. You want to be able to hold a note, maybe on a big bend or like a harmonic, and not have it choke out eventually. So that is off. So yeah, let's have a look at the amps again for the solo section. You can see here, we again looking at the settings that change per scene. The volume has gone up. I think of that as the gain. It's not really gain, I guess, but like, because it's a clean amp, but I mean, it's hitting the front of the amp. It's going to have an effect on the gainy sound, especially with the middles on. The mids come up a smidge. Because it's a solo, it should be more in the middle of the audio. But again, you push that too hard, you're going to lose that dimey sound. So you don't want to bring that up too much. Yeah, and then the output would have changed a bit. The cabs, I don't think change per scene. So let's look at the second row. Doubler is still on. Again, the gain, output, and mids change just like the first amp. You can check the volumes there. And we can see the mids have come up a little bit to, yeah, just punch through again in the solo. The chorus has gone up a lot, because like you hear here, just gives a bit of movement to those long held notes, makes it sound more dramatic and, yeah, iconic. The parametric does not change again. And yeah, the reverb comes on, finally. It's a pretty... we're not going all out. We're keeping it low in the mix. We've brought the decay down from the default settings. Because if you listen to it, yeah, you don't want it to fill up the mix with loads of noise. So just a little bit is enough to give it that big solo sounding space. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for listening. If you have any suggestions for other songs that you want to get a tone breakdown of, let me know in the comments. I also do Helix as well, for any of those Helix owners. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Cheers.